Sorry, Shane, you're saying something.
Hmm. Oh, sorry, dude. Yeah, I said, do you want to do the intro this time?
Uh, who will be more negative? Maybe I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is I'm so fucking deflated, dude. And even at the best of times, I'm just about average, you know?
Okay, gotcha. Okay, let's
Yeah.
do it. Hello, fellow Milanisti. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Milanistas 360. And, glad to have you here. With me is my co-host, Shane, based out of Nairobi, Kenya. And I'm Husni, your host for today. And, back in home, Kuala Lumpur, watching these games at 3:45 a.m. So it's not really good time for what we're seeing here. So, Shane, what has happened? What has happened? Has it been that downward spiral? And my quick take on it has been that I've been purely out for a while, even when we won Scudetto. For everyone who's not known me for this long, this had to come at some point because no coach is going to stay with us forever. I am very sad to see the way in which which most likely that Pioli will have to go. This string of defeats. I mean, what manager could actually keep his job? But well, until the official announcement is made, Pioli's still our coach. He'll be there for the derby, and we'll probably most likely see a lot of what we've seen in the past horror show against Sassuolo. So Shane, let's kick it off. I mean, where do you want to start? We have so much pain to let out.
Yeah, man. I mean, so here's the thing is I tried holding off for quite a while on the whole Pioli thing, put Pioli out thing, right? Because when he was first kind of hired, right, I was Pioli out. And and he did deliver us a Scudetto, and that was amazing. He'll forever deserve credit for that. But my big concern is, and we'll discuss this in a bit. This what we're seeing happen with Milan is nothing new in the context of Pioli's career, his managerial career, and he hasn't been able to rectify it wherever he's been. Um, it's just so hard, man. It's just things are. I mean, everything that could possibly go wrong is going wrong right now. It this is a really dark time for this club. I mean, I know it's always more difficult when you're stuck in a moment, and that moment, you're always biased to saying this is the worst that it's been. But I think after us experiencing, a title win last year, and we've gone from those highs to just completely capitulating. I mean, so for instance, right? So that graphic that you're showing there, Husney, right? That's kind of our form since early November. Obviously, it was the World Cup break, you know. But so we drew with Cremonese, right? That was the start of it, I think. Even that Fiorentina game that we won, keep in mind it needed a Milenkovic own goal in the 92nd minute to get 3 points there. Completely destroys you were at the PSV friendly, I think, right? No, sorry, not the Liverpool friendly,
Yeah, I was
if I
there.
remember. Right, so we were completely destroyed in those three friendlies, completely. Um, Salernitana, I mean, great. And just since then, it's gone from I mean, Roma, Torino, Lecce, and it's getting worse in terms of the amount of goals that we're conceding because the defense is just essentially just gone, right? So, I mean, 3 goals versus Inter, 4 goals versus Lazio side that are not that good, and 5 goals against Sassuolo. Like, I mean, I did a tweet during that game, when it was 5-2. So Sassuolo scored, right, 22.73% of all of their goals this year came against us in that game.
Yeah, and, just into the second part of the season. Yeah, you're right. But about that, if I can just say what my thoughts about this, and I'm looking back even further than our recent run of games. The start of the season actually wasn't bad. There was time where we were actually competing for the second star, and we were up against Napoli for it. So if you look far, even against that loss against Napoli, by the way, we actually played well. Then, as you mentioned, in early November, something started to happen. Uh, if you think about some of the big events during that time, the World Cup was coming up soon in December. I don't think that should be an issue because not all of our squad was actually called up to the World Cup. However, during that time, there was a lot of unease. If you ask me, it was a lot of unease, especially when it comes to the renewals of big players. So we had like Benacer, I think was one. Kalulu, I think he also renewed this season. Povega, strangely, and players. There was a lot going on with players individually themselves, as well as all this Liao saga. But that being said, I do not think those are excuses, and I know a lot of fans like try to make excuses for this club, which I just don't get why we need to do that. All those things shouldn't be leading to what has happened in the past few games, or right after the friendlies in December. It's a disaster, and who can we pin it on? If you do want to pin it on the blame, to me, if you ask me, it's purely because the players that we had, and before the stream, I spoke to Shane briefly about this. The players that we have, if you look at them on an individual basis, we've actually got a good squad. We've definitely got a much better squad than Sassuolo. That's for sure. Sassuolo hasn't even been playing great this season. We've definitely got a better squad than Lazio because Lazio, I think their only biggest signing came was Romagnoli, who used to play for us and was benched the second half of the season. So where does it actually go wrong for this club? Yes, you can say that a lot of teams are improving. Napoli's always been touted as the one that has improved the most. But a lot of teams have actually had such a bad start of the season. Inter, they've lost what, 5 or 6 games. Juve have lost so many games, and if they didn't have the point deduction, we would actually be in sixth place. By the way, yeah. So we got to thank the prosecutors for those deductions. But with the team, I don't get it. It's inexplainable. And on top of that, you combine it with the current winter mercato, nothing is happening. It's like you're expecting the same man with the same tactics, putting the same players onto the field, and you're expecting them somehow turn the corner. I mean, how long can you drive without wheels? How long will the car take? How far will the car take you? So Shane, you're absolutely right. I don't know the reason why. There's a lot of speculation, and a lot of people, especially I'm sure the Twitterverse that you're monitoring, have their own ideas. But it's such a big drop, as you said, for champions. Inter, I hate saying this, but Inter, they won the Scudetto and they actually fought us until the last game when we won it last season. We're just fighting to stay in top four, and even that is looking unlikely because of the next team that we have. So yeah, I mean, as a title, if you guys are not too well aware, purely out. I think Shane and I are in agreement. But Shane, I mean, do you even see the course correction or something different happening? Because Pioli is still going to remain in charge. We still have to see the same players. What do you see is going to happen next?
So here's the thing, right? When it comes to Pioli, right, this type of situation is nothing new, right? Remember, same thing happened at Inter when he took over.
But he
They
didn't win
went
the
on this.
Scudetto with Inter. This is the big difference.
No,
He's
but
the
here's the
same man, no
thing.
doubt, but he's
No,
coming off a
but here's
different set of accomplishments.
true. But here's the thing. So in terms of how it ended for him, so when he first took over at Inter, went on this great, right? Went on an amazing run. Next thing, a couple of months into the new season, I can't remember what season it was. Was it 2019, 2020? Some maybe well when he was in charge at Inter. But so they went on this great run. Next thing, just completely. I think he lost like was it 5 or 6 games in a row, something like that. and then they kicked him out. Sound familiar?
Except for the getting kicked out part.
Yeah, except for getting kicked out part. Lazio, I mean, he did great things with them. I mean, got a very average squad to the Champions League. But then again, the squad just gave up on him. Went through this horrific losing streak. Same thing happened at Fiorentina. And he's shown multiple times in his past that he hasn't been able to correct the slump, right? So we're depending on this guy who's no track record of actually correcting the slump to correct the slump. I'll give you a bit of an insight, and I think this kind of says a lot, right? And I kind of agree with it, and I think this is where just this complete capitulation in the squad has come from. So Alessandro Nesta gave an interview. It's on Sempre Milan. So he was asked about the errors that have been seen the last few weeks. So he said, last year they were defending forwards, but this year they don't press so hard, and therefore you're in trouble, right? Makes sense. They stay halfway, they're in the middle of the road, and you pay for this. Now, I think it's due to tiredness and physical condition, but here's the key sentence. But in the long run, their football is not cheap. What they do in the long run, you pay for it physically.
Okay. So the last part, what do you think he meant by that?
So essentially, he just means that you need a squad of at least 23 very good players to come in and fill in. Because physically, these guys are wrecked. And that's on top of World Cup that was in the winter. These guys are wrecked. They've stopped playing for Pioli. This is evident, right? I mean, it's like you said, or it's like you kind of asked. It's like, well, look, where do you pinpoint who do you blame, right? But the thing is, I don't think the question is right. Let's just look at who we can actually get that can fix this ship, right? Because it's sinking. And the thing is it's not blaming Pioli as much, but they're not going to junk the full squad of players, because it's not like we're Chelsea and we can afford 11 great new players all of a sudden. We can't afford that. So we have to stick with our playing staff. Maldini and Massara, unlikely to go. I can't see them going. Nor do I want them to go, to be honest. It's not like Cardinale is going to leave, as much as I'd like it if Redbird just sold us at this point, but they won't. So, I mean, that kind of just leaves the only link that can really go to try and, rectify this situation is Pioli.
Yeah. But that being said, and, if we want to take it from the other side, is that the team at the state that it's in, if you were to introduce a manager with a different set of ideas, how long do you think it would take for a new manager to really get his ideas across? And will that lead to an immediate, you could say, immediate rebound against teams that, because let's face it, yeah, if we don't make top four, the situation is even more severe than a lot of other clubs. So let's look at Chelsea, for example, that you've mentioned. They're what now, in 8th place? So they're out of the top four. If they don't make Champions League, or even if they don't make Europa League, the EPL is so lucrative in itself that they shouldn't have to worry. So they'll go and make another big round of spendings next summer window, and they might get top four back. For us, we're on such a shoestring budget. If we don't make top four, or even top five, that's it's not about nails in the coffin anymore. You're dead. The club is dead. How are you then going to recover? Because the philosophy is still going to remain the same. We're not spending, and at the same time, we're not selling. So even if you were to try to monetize Liao in summer, and knowing that you don't have top four, even top five, or European football, how much are teams actually going to want to bid for Liao? They know there's good potential, no doubt about it. But then it could be like, oh, you guys are such desperate situation. We would have given you 120 million if you were still in Champions League, because maybe you didn't need to sell him, or could have probably offered him more. But now that you probably need every penny you're going to get, it's going to be 90, take it or leave it. Or because he's only got 1 year left. I mean, this is how severe it is if we don't make the European places. But I mean, it's not all lost, because I did have this sense before. Do you remember that season where we qualified for the Champions League in the last game against Atlanta. So we were hovering between fifth and fourth during towards the end of that season. So all is not lost, but how much can we, how much grinta is left within the team to actually pull us take us across the line? I don't think much is left, and like you said, it seems that they're not playing for Pioli anymore. But the options are limited, and I mean, if you do keep Pioli, Shane, and my question to you is that are, are there enough variations within the team at least to get us into fourth place? Do you see the
Yep.
play? Because
Yep.
you have to admit,
Agree.
there are some players that actually are underutilized. Do you think there's opportunity for others?
No, and this is what kind of feeds into the next slide, right? Which is where we're just going to discuss Pioli and where he's fallen down a bit. So it's kind of like you said, right? I think so. Adley is a strange one to me. Um, he's a great example of this, right? So you have Adley, who obviously you feel he doesn't fit your system, right? If that's the case, then loan him out. But they haven't loaned him out, right? He's still at the club. So what's he going doing at the club? Only just sitting on the bench, right? Chow chronically underutilized, you know, chronically. Like, I mean, they're putting in Kier there, who's just past it. He doesn't have speed anymore, right? Chow, as much as he's played, he hasn't done anything horrifically wrong outside of nerves and lack of experience, both of which he'll get by being on the pitch, not on the bench, right?
In the case of Chow, would you say actually that he's actually done more? I know he hasn't been perfect, because if he was perfect, I think he would actually start a lot more. But do you think he's actually done more right than wrong? Because I can't
I
remember
think so.
something. Yeah,
I,
actually,
th- I think
something
so.
horrendous from him.
I think so. Like, and this is the surprising thing. So it's like, you know, and this is why I'm very much Pioli out, really, because I mean, when you so so what age is Pioli? Like 67, something like that.
Yeah, I think about that.
So when you have 67 years on this, spinning football, right? You should have at least developed some sort of, let's say, you should be able to see things happen before they happen, as compared to a younger, less experienced person, right, or a manager, right? So he knew the World Cup was coming, right? Chronically underutilized the players like Adley, like Chow, you know, like Franks, right? Chronic. As a result, now we're essentially still going in with the same starting 11 that we had in September. Let's not even talk about CDK. You know, who thankfully he was one of the very few bright spots for me from this Sassuolo mess of a game. You
Yep, you're
know,
right.
see, he had a good 45 minutes. So what does Pioli do? He subs him off.
But
So
let me ask you this, and this is drawing parallels from just the last season, previous season where we won the Scudetto. Towards the end of that season, everyone was not willing to pair or to start Romagnoli because they saw uh, Kalulu and Tomori as the perfect partnership. And admittedly, yeah, they kept a lot of clean sheets. So he was willing to free some players out and say that, okay, you're definitely not going to be as good as the guys that I've got. That was last season. Now it's the opposite. Yeah, we have two players that no chemistry, nothing in sync, and letting in goals. But he's not willing to do the same to either of them, or to both of them. In fact, what do you think is the difference there? I mean, how can that mindset change from, not too long ago, maybe about 6 months ago to now? Why do you think that is?
um, I think he's just showing a huge amount of stubbornness, really. At a time, maybe especially now, more so than ever. Look, you're going to need to change things up. He's constantly stubborn. He does this all the time. I mean, you see it. Look, I'm not like anti Krunic, right? In fact, I love the guy, right? But but like the thing is that like going and I mean, there was certain times early on in the season where I mean Krunic was out on the right side. He's out on right wing.
Yeah.
You know,
Even
and
the
you're
Champions
kind of
League
going,
right wing.
I think so. And the thing is you're kind of looking at this and you're kind of going, you know, it's it's very easy for people to criticize you when you do something wrong, right? Now, but here's the thing: is that he's not helping himself. So when he starts giving these press conferences and he's giving one-word smart answers, right? You know that doesn't look good either, because then you're already in under. I understand why someone would be defensive, right? But you're being defensive because you're getting called out on your bad decisions. You know, so you don't revert back to being a child, right? After 67 years or whatever it is on this green earth, right? And kind of start acting like a kid and then kind of start being smart, right? This is the last thing you do. So that's another problem I have with him, and that's only a small one. But anyway, um, look, there's nothing for me about Pioli that tells me he can fix this. There's nothing. He hasn't shown anything. It's just been the same rehashed garbage. So I mean, what's he going to do? New formation. All right, great. Who are we going to have in the middle of the park? So people are calling for a 4-3-3, and he might even implement this, right? So you're putting two of the most overused players. Sorry, well, you're putting two of the most overused players. So you're putting in Tonali and you're putting in Benacer. That's everyone's bright idea for fixing this. Is basically making sure that two players that are just basically ran into the ground are going to play every single game. Like,
On that point, and having things changing in the midfield as well as the attack, that's not really our problem, is it now? Actually, our problem is in defense. So even if you were to have, as you've mentioned, the two players who have been quite overused, I think who was it that currently has a muscle fatigue. So we have, sorry, Theo just came off the muscle fatigue, so it's something that could arguably happen to our other players. If you're expecting the
Benacer, I
same
think, is with
players,
it now.
yeah, to be more defensive to cover up for the big gaps at the back, what do you expect is going to happen? Is he just throwing them onto the fire trying to get that 3 points, and we could be risk losing this place out for at minimum what, a month or even two?
But this,
That
but
severe?
this is the big problem, and I'm not just saying, oh, Pioli out, just to be reactionary, right? Because being reactionary is the easiest thing in the world.
Mhm.
Like I could have called myself reactionary when he first came in, and I said, oh, Pioli out, right? That was reactionary. I'm not being reactionary because of this string of bad results when I say Pioli out. I'm looking at history, right, and I'm going, this guy has no track record of actually fixing this when he's been in this situation before. He's proved multiple times there's no plan B. There's literally no plan B. If the latest reports about Leao, so Leao, just for anyone that doesn't know, if the reports are correct, Leao's essentially, he asked for over 7 million, and he also said, listen, I want a release clause of 70 to 80 million. Milan just walked away. So Leao is gone. So he can't depend on Leao anymore, if he lasts till the summer, if Pioli lasts till the summer. So, I mean, geez, guys, what the hell are we doing? Like,
Yeah, on the Liao point, and this is my personal observation, is that Liao is a player that he needs to get into the right sort of mindset and into form. Then he'll be absolutely electric, as we've seen in last season. But in this current state of mind, not just about him and with regards to the team, is he even an asset to have on the field? And we've seen it with Pioli. He's starting to lean towards Rebic a bit, and this is where
no player is.
yeah.
Literally, no player is. And this, again, is another reason why I'm Pioli out. And it's nothing personal against Pioli, but when you're at the point where the players have just stopped playing for you, name another manager that's ever come back from that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because that's pretty much as a manager, that's your death sentence. Because once you've lost control of the team, it's just you on the sidelines shouting into at the wall and the thin air.
I mean, it's like that was the great thing about Alex Ferguson, right? At Man United. never lost the team, right? Because if one player gave him stick, it'd be gone. Obviously, Man United, different situation, bags of money, could afford to do whatever they wanted to do. But that's why he had such a long tenure. If there was a player that gave him hassle or stress, rightfully, the player was gone.
Yeah,
You know,
great point. But in this current situation, even if you see the previous game against Sassuolo, my take on it is that we still have that strength. So attacking is not an issue for us. Yeah, it was an issue against, I think, Lazio. It was an issue against Inter. You'll have that. Yeah, there'll be some games where your attack just doesn't work because opponents, yes, everyone else on the other side is thinking and they find a way to nullify your attack. But on the games that we should have won, our attack actually didn't have an issue. So we can score that odd one or those odd two goals, and barring the goal from Origi, which I thought was quite world class, and that could have won us the game if no goals went in before that. But to me, I'm really speaking on the defense, and the issue that I really have with Pioli is that this man has built his coaching career on him being a defender. So, for those who don't know, Pioli started off as a defender. He's played defense most of his career. He shouldn't have a defensive problem with the teams because that was his job. We can't defend set pieces. We can't score set pieces. Fine, we can probably try to score from open play. We don't even get any penalties anymore. You remember during that season whereby everyone was hating on us because we seem to always get penalties? I haven't
yeah.
seen a penalty in a long while. We give
We
them,
need
but
to be in
we
the
don't get
box
them.
for that to happen. We
Exactly.
need to be in the other team's box.
So we're not threatening enough. These goals that we're considering are so ridiculous. It's straightforward. You know when it's happening. The opponent comes down the wing. He's in space. Takes it to the byline. Cuts back. Always finds his man. Everyone is absolutely ball watching. So in terms of the coaching tactics, I think this is something that Pioli hasn't improved in 3 years because we're still having those issues. But whether it's just him, and this is maybe I side with some people, he is maybe the main part. But within his coaching staff, I also think that they are as limited as he is. This is why
Oh
we should
yeah, big
probably
time.
in the
And
area.
this is like, that is so true. I mean, you mentioned a great point there. So, like, look at our set pieces.
Yeah,
Our set pieces haven't improved. You're not telling me that they can't do half an hour of set piece play every training session.
indeed.
Because they're obviously not, right, based on what we're seeing.
Yeah,
And it's like it hasn't been fixed in 3 years.
yeah. It doesn't have to be
You
Pioli
know.
because he's got a number of assistant coaches with him, and he's overseeing the whole program. But the others, I mean, what is everyone else doing? And we spoke about this briefly a while back, saying is that the reason why our set pieces don't develop either scoring or defending because on both sides, we're equally bad. So you're trading with the same group of bad players that set pieces. So that's something that definitely needs to change. But I think the next one that we really have to speak about is the ones that are within Pioli's circle that are meant to be supporting him with players or I don't know what, even having that pep talk with the squad. And for those who are not watching us on YouTube, I have a picture of Maldini and Masara on screen. So these are our directors within the club that should also be doing their part. Now, my question to you, Shane, is that are they helping or are they actually, you know, I don't want to say they're against the club because I don't think they are, but are their efforts uh, causing more issues than solving problems?
So the thing is I am obviously, as I'm sure you are as well, Hosni, right? Would never be anti Maldini in any shape or form, right?
Yeah,
And that's why I'm finding it really hard when people kind of go, and the annoying thing is it's usually people who started to support Milan maybe, the last couple, 2 or 3 years, or maybe during the banter era, they're like, oh, Maldini out. But you see, I remember when I was a kid, and I remember how great Maldini was, and always was, and just a professional and a great captain. And now he's come back to the club when the project was actually something that was real. He didn't come back for Yang Hong Lee. So I'll never be Maldini out. unfortunately, unless he goes out. And, even if he kills someone, I'd probably, probably still stick up for him. But it's here's the thing. I think Maldini, Massara, look, they haven't got everything right. There's been quite an awful lot that they've got wrong. But when you look at the short space of time, relatively speaking, that they've been in charge of this club, I mean, they're responsible for bringing in Tonali, Teo, Tonali, Benacer, Teo, Moynihan. And they're also responsible for Messias, right? But the thing is look,
Wait, let
no
me stop
one,
with
no
that.
one's
Not only
perfect.
Salit and Macias, Lazetic,
Mhm.
Mandzukic, Bakayoko, Tatarushanu's renewal. I think Tatarusanu came during Maldini era, but I think maybe even before Masara. So his renewal. So yes, as you've mentioned, sorry to cut you, but they've done a lot right. But let's not overlook the things that they've done wrong. Sorry, you continue.
Yeah, big time. But I think so. And here's what's very concerning for me, based on latest news. So latest news is that after the mess that was the Sassuolo game, right? Apparently, was it Giorgio Furlani, this guy that no one has ever seen. I didn't know what he looked like until this photo, but apparently he was at. They had a conversation. So Furlani, Maldini, and Massara had a conversation. Uh, you know, so the thing is it's really, really going to just really disappoint me very much if Maldini goes. And to be honest, I think Maldini was trying to push for these transfers like Zaniolo. He was trying to push for this guy. What was this kid they were trying to get for 5 million?
The Chilean kid, yeah.
Yeah, Chilean kid, right? So he's been trying to do what he can, but here's the thing, unfortunately, like players cost money. So because Cardinale isn't putting in any money, we're automatically limited. I don't think Maldini is very happy with the situation, but I think him being calm, cool, collected, intelligent person that he is, and that he's always shown to be, you know, he's not displaying that fact, right? But he's not happy with this situation either. Now, there is one criticism that I do have, and this is very key here. For as great as he is, and for all the great that Massar has done for us, right? We did lose Romagnoli and we did lose Kessie. And so we lost them on free transfers, which one is, no one else is doing that. No other big team in the top 5 league is letting a player go on a big transfer or on a free transfer, unless they're, in the EPL, which money doesn't matter. So, but their answer was okay. So let's bring in Chow and Franks, which that's great. But the thing is they haven't played, so it's difficult to say how And again, going back to Pioli, I think that's more his fault. But like if it is your project, because it is Maldini's project, right? Forget Cardinale, forget Pioli, forget everyone else, right? This is definitely Maldini's project. So should you not kind of say, well, hold on, I got these players and you're not playing them, or you've been playing Benacer and you've been playing Tonali for the last 20 odd games. Do you think it's a good idea to give youth a chance, right? So maybe, yeah, look, again, he hasn't done things perfectly, but I mean, he's not going to go, nor do I want to see him go, him being Maldini. I don't want to see Massara go. I think they've both done a good job in a very short space of time. I mean, compared to, like, what were those two jokers that came in the banter era, Fazzoni and Mirabelli?
Yeah.
I mean, they had an explosive time, right? At a couple of months that they were in charge, right? Essentially going off buying anyone that played football. right? And look at the state of the squad since. Kessie was the last remaining player of that.
But let me defend them a little bit, and I keep saying this is that the way that they bought those players and the way they spent money, you can't deny that those guys they had ambition. They wanted to win quick.
They did, but like at what cost though?
Yeah, true. I mean, it was a gamble. Yeah, there's no other way of putting it. You put all your chips on one number. If it doesn't hit, you're screwed. If it hits, you probably
Chelsea fans, are we listening?
Yeah, so I mean,
are we listening, Chelsea fans? Because yeah, this is essentially what's happening here.
No, but the
Premier League or not, man, they're still toast.
Chelsea
they are still in a lot of trouble
to do that again until they get it right. We've only got
I don't know. So
that's it.
No, so here's the thing, Hosni, right? Because remember, financial fair play, right? It goes by last year's books, right?
Yeah.
If Chelsea don't qualify for the Champions League this year, next year they are wrecked. Long contracts or anything else, right? All these Chelsea fans going on about how they're the best club in the world because apparently an idiot owner that has no idea about football that decides to go off and buy 30 plus players, right? Because that's the way it's done in the US, right? Apparently that's a good thing for them, right? But they won't be saying it's a good thing when they're, they've just been kicked out of the UCL. They mightn't even, that they mightn't even qualify for. So watch this space,
Yeah,
I'm saying it's all
right.
well and good.
But the one thing that the EPL teams have in abundance is good lawyers. We saw it with Man City. Man City were investigated. They got let off. So it's not beyond Chelsea for them to do the same. I mean, that's the reality. If you want to defend yourself, a lawyer up. I'm sure if the UEFA can throw like a million's worth of legal bills at you, I'm sure these owners can throw them another 50 back. Just drown them in paperwork and try to get the trophies or the money along the way. At the end of the day, you'll appeal and just take a token $500,000 fine and call it quits. That's how it works. For us, yeah, we got terrible lawyers along to go with this loan with option. And but there's one theory that I wanted to bounce with you, Shane, is that rating back to CDK. So CDK was a big gamble. If I go along the same train of thought, CDK, no one can deny with the budget and with the time at that time, the situation the club was in, it was a big gamble because we spent 35 million. Do you think CDK not working out is somehow affecting how Maldini and Massara are approaching transfers? Because now they're saying that even players above 35 or 30 or above 30 million are not cutting it for us. What can we do? They seem lost. What do you think of my theory there?
No. I think too much of it. No, you see, and this is why I just go back to Pioli, because I think, again, you see, so like, look, there might be a bit of truth to it where it's kind of like, oh well, look, and this is maybe another mistake of Maldini and Massara. It's like, well, look, we went all in on CDK. We were broke to try and afford everyone else. Too broke to get someone on the right wing. That is another big failing. But the thing is, though, is that you see, and Pioli did this last year, and he was very good at it. He worked with what he had, right? This year he's been given even more of things that he didn't have, right? So, and due to injuries, right, which are a big part of it, of course, which definitely have not helped. But I mean, now, he could potentially. I mean, if Origi, judging by that was probably one of the only good standout points from the Sassuolo game for me was Origi's great goal. I mean, if Origi starts coming good, hopefully CDK starts coming good, right, might be able to turn it around. But the thing is, though, is that like Pioli is just that there's a World Cup, that Theo's going, that Giroud is gone, right? It was a late call up, but you know that these things are happening, right? XYZ players are going off playing in the World Cup, and as a result of the World Cup that the game that the scheduling of the games has been, it's jam packed, right?
Yeah.
You also know as well that your football is very physical, right? And it wears players out. but you also know that you don't have cover. Where's the plan B then?
There isn't one.
There's not. You see, and this is after 3 years.
Yeah.
There's no plan B. There's no plan B. And so there's no plan B. I don't know what the hell Pioli was thinking, because I think he was just automatically assuming that this squad with a 36-year-old striker and another striker that's 40 years old, apparently he probably assumed that, right, these guys can keep this going all season. They can't. And Pioli's shown from experience that he can't right the ship. This is why he needs to go. And thank you for the Scudetto as well. And that was amazing. And you'll always be remembered. Even if you left now, you will be remembered for the Scudetto. And so you should be, Pioli. But, come on. It needs to go. It needs to go.
Well, let's move on to our next person on our shit list right now. Another person that needs to go. What do you make of this guy? Jerry Cardinale, our new owner. So less than a year in, has a big loan still with Elliot. The one thing that I'd like to know from you, Shane, is that, and then taking it back to the beginning of last season and seasons before, everyone was complaining about Elliot, by the way. So at that time, we had thought Elliot is probably the lowest it's going to get in terms of scrutiny on transfers and how we do things, that shoestring budget. Well, look at us now. It seems that we have what is the expression? Out of the frying pan and into the fire.
And into the fire, yeah.
So that's where we are with Jerry Cardinale, because it seems that he's only interested in the stadium project. And maybe this is one thing that we took Elliot for granted, is that they didn't want to stay around the stadium. They probably have enough real estate assets, so they want to try to get the club into a decent shape and sell it. But little did we know that process actually yields better results than what Jerry's trying to do, which is absolutely nothing. So the 35 million, I think maybe didn't come out of Cardinale's budget. He's basically spent nothing this transfer window, except for that keeper, Vasquez. I don't know where they found the money. Probably they stopped drinking coffee in Casa Milan for a month, and they saved some budget.
Stop using toilet roll.
Yeah. And what does the club look like now with this sort of ownership? Or where do you think this ownership will take us? Because we're in the dumps, there's no denying it. We're having a bad run. Things are not looking great. When you're looking up and you're looking at your benefactor to try to do something, he seems to be stuck in New York, probably not interested, doing something else. What can you say about this man? What can you say about what he's done, which is near nothing?
I mean, the stones on this man is amazing. So the cojones, right? Because literally, just to come in, basically feed this line of, I like winning. It's like, yeah, but that usually means that you have to sacrifice a bit. And so far, I think he's probably sacrificed one plane ticket maybe to go to Casa Milan, and that's about it. So the thing is, as well, though, is why I'm mentioning Cardinale as well is judging on his current. So all we can do is judge him on, let's say, 2 transfer windows, right? Or maybe 1.
Maybe 1.
Right? Maybe 1. So the thing is the only thing I'm gauging, or it's the only, I think, somehow relevant. It's a relevant football team that I can gauge a stadium project on. And I think they were similar to us in the way that they were operating then. So I'm basing our stadium project on the Arsenal stadium project, right? The Arsenal stadium project meant that Arsenal spent nothing for multiple transfer windows, right? The thing is Arsenal paid it off early. Great for their creditors, right? And the thing is, I know we're going halves on this stadium with Inter, unfortunately, but being realistic, I think it's the only way we can do this, right? But Arsenal are also playing in a league that's obviously, money inflows into it are astronomical compared to ours, right? So judging by this transfer window, judging by them not budging to accommodate Leao, judging by them, basically haggling over, trying to offer 5.5 million for a player that his club rated him at 15 million, and then just refusing to get a right wing. I'm talking there about the guy from Chile. This is not good. This is not good at all. It's not good. I mean, and if early reports are to be believed, he doesn't want to continue with Moncada in the scouting department. This is the same fellow that discovered Mbappe, by the way.
Yeah, and most of our squad.
So he doesn't have a plan there in the scouting department. Yeah, and he doesn't have a plan in the scouting department. So my question is what is he have a balance sheet all you want, all the way down to Serie B, and that's great. But the thing is fans don't give a shit. I'm at the point where I don't give a shit. I've been patient for fucking. When was the last Serie A title, Hosni? When was it? 2013? Was it 2014?
11, 12.
2011. Sorry, yeah, Jesus, sorry, I got confused. What did we win in 2014? Was that the Super Copa or something?
Oh, that's 20.
Oh no, that was the last Champions League thing. I think that was the last time we were in the Champions League. Yeah, I think it was the last time we were in the Champions League. Well, it's like, look, and I'll always continue to be patient, right? But the thing is that like this guy, right, screwed up an InvestCorp investment opportunity, or like we could be owned by InvestCorp, which was a Bahrainian fund,
the
essentially,
linked
which is
sovereign fund, something like that. Yeah, they own Gucci, by the way.
Guys, screw a 57 million deficit that we're running so far this year. So we're minus 57 million. Would be plus 200 million already, because judging by the way that the PSG deal went and the Man City deal went, right, they find these sponsors from somewhere, right? So I mean, we'd be automatically out of the red. We'd probably have our own stadium, right, because money isn't an issue and they can plow in whatever the hell they like, which is great. And instead, what we're doing is we're haggling, with players that we can't afford, or with, it's like we set our valuation. And I understand that when it's a situation where it's like, look, this is our valuation, we want to stick as close to this as possible, right? But my God, like, it's like, so it's like they were going to offer 21 million for Zaniolo, who's completely broken, or is it 23 million?
I think that
right?
blessing in disguise that we didn't get him.
It'd be something. None of it good, I think, for me. But like, so he offered 23 million for Zaniolo, and now he doesn't want to offer, potentially, let's say, 15 million for this kit. So it's like, what do you want to offer? Because it's like, what have you offered so far? Yeah, and it's like you said, I know the guy, it's not, Milan isn't just his team, he's all these multiple other teams. I understand that, right? But today, like, after the Sassuolo game, that was the first time that I seen his little, hand puppet for Lani, really, in any context. So Redbird so far have been a fucking joke. And I thought that they would have had this down pat, right? Because it's not the first football team that they've been invested in.
Yeah, but undoubtedly we're their biggest. I think they're the biggest club under their umbrella. So for those who don't know, yeah, they have a stake as well in Fenway, which owns Liverpool, but they are not the controlling owners of Fenway or Liverpool. But as an entire club, yeah, we're definitely the biggest club in their portfolio. But if you don't care about your biggest club, then what does it say?
Because like we're at the point now where I think Furlani himself, right, this guy that I don't even know what he sounds like, but he needs to come out and he actually needs to say, listen, this is the plan. It's going to be rough for...
Sorry to cut you. Look at Furlani's LinkedIn. You will see his rise. He is a yes man. That's all I can say about Furlani and what I've seen about his career. And this is the issue that I'm having actually with the club. Not since Redbird took it off, but for a while, there are plenty of yes men inside this club, from the medical team.
Pioli's
Pioli
one.
apparently seems like a yes man. Many of them, yeah. All they do is say that, oh, okay, and the person to speak out was actually Boban. Once he spoke out, he got the boot. By the way, Boban, what he said actually, it turned out to be true. He was the one who pointed out the Ragnick deal, and just because of that interview, they gave him the boot. But he was telling the truth.
That's it. So we ended up with no Ragnick, who Boban was speaking out against, and we
Yeah.
ended up with no Boban.
This is the issue of the club. So yeah, you're right. It's the problem is not only on the pitch, right? It's also on the levels above it, the management, how this club is run, and I know it's all coming down. It seems like just because we're in a bad patch, and just because we won the Scudetto, it doesn't mean that this club will continue to remain champions or perfect. I think I speak for a lot of fans is that we want the second star. No one can deny it. We want the second star. But even if we didn't get the second star, we still want to be respectable in terms of the standings of the league. This is the issue.
That I mean, gee, even Husney. I mean, when you think about it, right, historically, even in the late '80s, early '90s, right, and even in the the 2000s when we were dominating, right, winning two in a row was very rare, if it
Yeah,
happened at all. Right. So the thing is I'm not being an ass here, right? When I expect, oh, I want us to win this league by 15 points, uh, you know, like, because it's not like we're Napoli, right? But no, I'm just being honest here when I kind of say it's like, look, I really I didn't expect the league win this season, but what I did expect is I actually expected some sort of level of growth, right? So the thing is we've struggled our way through the UCL, struggled, right? We're going to get destroyed by Spurs. Mañana or not, we're absolutely not because Spurs are any good, but because literally we can, if we can't defend against a broken Sassuolo or a very average Lazio side, can you imagine a team coached by Conte?
indeed. And keep in mind, and I know this is very downgrading to Sassuolo, the team and supporters. Sassuolo isn't a European standard football team. Are they even a top four team? Definitely not. Are they even top five team? Never. That is
Arguably,
the team that we lost against.
that's the thing, and this is why, and this is why I'm so upset about this situation because it is not the fact that we are not running away with the league. It is the manner that we're actually going backwards, and there is no leadership at the club from what I can see in any context, and that's kind of rolling out onto the field, right? I mean, because to me it seems like Maldini he's like, look, here's your line, this is all you can say, you have to stick to this, right? Furlani, who the fuck is this guy, right?
On that
Right,
point,
no one
Shane,
knows.
and if you remember from last year, when and you see some
Mm,
of the photos of training, you tended to see Gazidis quite a lot in the photos. He used to come down quite often.
yep.
I don't recall seeing a photo of Forlani with the team in the regular, the daily sessions. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and for those listeners and viewers, if I'm wrong, please put it in the comments or in the chat.
I think,
I haven't seen it.
interestingly, the only game, so outside of I guess the Sassuolo one, right, which he kind of had to show up at because obviously you tend to have to do things like that when you're the CEO of a club and they're in the shitter, right? You actually have to show up at games then. But like I think he showed up at one of the women, right, like the Milan women's teams games. So he was kind of, it's like, tick box exercise, right? So if I show up here, yeah, it looks good. Show up here, it looks good. Yeah, yeah, great. Ticking boxes. Salary. But it's like, Jesus Christ, though. It's like you said, yeah, Gazidis, I mean, was always there.
Yeah, he was.
Ferlani, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
I know.
I know it's
We're
it's
willing
like
to
it's
gun down
these.
anyone just to vent out our frustrations there.
But no, but the thing is as well, right? It's the easiest thing to say in the world, right? For me, it's like, And to an extent, when a lot of people say it, right, Pioli out, right, I think they are being lazy because all they're doing is they are being reactionary, right? I'm not accusing you of this, right? Because I know you've thought about it, right? And you have good,
Think
valid
about it a
points,
long
right?
time.
No, exactly, right? I'm not accusing you, but it's like all over Twitter. It's like since it's like Pioli out, Pioli out. But it started actually happening, you know. It probably even start coming into October, right? And you're just kind of going, Jesus. It's just people being very lazy, and it's just kind of people kind of going, look, whatever. I'm not getting what I want, so therefore I want to, I mean, but keep in mind, we are Milan, and we were always Milan, and we always had patience with managers. We always did.
Yeah, but those
Outside
managers were
of,
of a different caliber. I mean, if you talk about
mm,
Ancelotti or even Capello, the reason why we had patience because they kept us going on several fronts. If it was not the domestic
but
league, they kept us going
keep
in the Champions League.
keep in mind, Ancelotti when he came over from Juventus, that was a very unsuccessful spell that he had at Juventus.
Yeah,
So he came over from Juventus,
by the way, he took them to
right?
the final, I think. So it wasn't that
Mm.
unsuccessful.
No, it was. He didn't get him to the UCL final, did he?
I thought he did.
Let me check that because 1 second. Let's see, because because I remember.
He lost it in the final. This is what I remember. But yeah, to any
Oh,
viewer,
so he would have done, yeah. So 95 to 2001,
yeah.
yeah, 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 95. So he would have done, yeah, because didn't they creep in like 97 or something like that
But keep in mind is
against
that
Dortmund?
Italian
So fair
football was
point,
at its
but
peak in
yeah,
the 90s. So that Juventus team would have been good enough to get to the final anyway.
true, 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 true. But when he did come over, like things did were quite hairy for quite a while. Like there was a couple of months where it looked like nothing was happening and the team weren't gelling. But they did kind of they stuck with him. But the difference is though is that like it's like you said. I mean, at least you had some sort of of an inkling that this guy has the experience to turn things around because he did it at Parma before Juve,
Yeah.
right? So, but like Pioli, we don't have any historical evidence, right? His attitude is getting worse and worse. I, there is no plan B. There just never seems to have had one. The club is completely falling apart. His head is the easiest head they can roll because they can't sack all of the players. Maldini, I can't see going. Massara maybe to Juventus, but I can't see Maldini going because that loses a huge amount of legitimacy as far as Cardinale is concerned, right? Because if you're letting the club legend go from a level like that, it's kind of like shit.
Yeah, might as well be back in the
What's
table.
legitimate
Yeah.
about this project? Yeah.
Well,
So let's see.
quite a lot of strong opinions tonight. And yeah, I mean, Shane, what are some of your final words on the topic? This probably is purely out trend. It's going to keep going to continue until he leaves. Even if he does, by some miracle win the derby against Inter, I I think it's probably done. It's just a matter of when. What are some of your final thoughts on the matter?
Yeah. So I think look. Let's be honest here. We're not going to win the UCL. Obviously, we're out of every tournament that we could have won. And it's not even out of January, and we're out. We're out of everything. I'm assuming what might happen is even if he rights the ship somewhat and gets a couple of draws in the Serie A, which isn't going to help us in terms of trying to get UCL and trying to stick there. But I think what'll happen is they might give him a pass when we get demolished by Spurs. Because they'll go, oh, well, we achieved this, miraculous objective, just like we achieved this objective of, only losing, 57 million this year, just stats and figures and stuff. But Jesus Christ, I mean, can you imagine Pioli without Leao?
I can't imagine the squad without Leao. This is the problem. I mean, look at the goals and his impact on the
Mm.
team.
So, and we're expecting, we're expecting the same guy that's gotten booted out of Inter, gotten booted out of Lazio, and gotten booted out of Fiorentina when things got bad. We're expecting that same guy to fix it for us.
Not by
It's not
choice. I mean,
gonna
I guarantee you,
happen.
it's not the best choice. But I mean, it comes back to ambition, and we spoke about this before. Is that how ambitious are the directors? And this is a credit to Abramovich.
They're zero euros in the January transfer market ambitious.
Exactly, but there are, and Abramovich with Chelsea was a good example. Yeah, he wanted to win at all costs. He had the money. Not performing, get the hell out. He did it to Mourinho. He did it to Conte. He did it to Sarri. He wants trophies. When are we going to have that level of ambition from the top? I think maybe never.
And you could, no, we'll have it after this miraculous stadium, but not after the stadium is built. After the stadium is paid off in about 10 years.
Yeah, by then we might be trailing Inter by about 3 Scudetti. This is the issue that I have. A little too little, too late. All right,
Yeah,
Shane.
fuck it.
Yeah, well, it's been another great session of the podcast, and to everyone tuning in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. We'd like to thank you for tuning in and giving us all the support towards this channel. Please do follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We are at Milanistas360. And yeah, anything else that you'd like to add, Shane, in terms of how we feel at this moment?
God help us against Inter.
Indeed. And as always, Forza Milan, guys.
Forza Milan.
Italia!